Hi everybody, welcome back. It's been a while since I've posted anything up on the channel other than just track videos of the ZR1, and I wanted to go ahead and post something that's hopefully a little more helpful and educational. And this really is going to be about track day workflow. So in particular, what do I do during a typical track day to keep track of, kind of what I'm learning, what I'm experiencing, kind of taking the notes I need to take, as well as helping keep track of wear on things like the car and brakes and tires. So if you've been to the hypodriver.com website, on the resources page, one of the things I put up there was a template spreadsheet, which is basically a trimmed down version of this spreadsheet here, designed to kind of give you a format to keep track of things. I used to keep track of just track days, and what I found was, frankly, that just wasn't enough. Quite honestly, there was so much variability in the number of sessions, length of session, that it wasn't really giving me the level of detail I wanted to be able to keep track of both specific things that happened as well as really how much wear am I putting on the car, or on the tires, or on the brakes. So this year I've started actually keeping track of individual sessions. So there's more things to keep track of, but the good news is I get a lot more kind of good detailed data out of it. So the format here, first you just have the date. So again, if it's a 2-day event, I've got 2 days here, the organizer and the track, and then the track length. And then I try to keep track of the conditions just roughly. I mean, I don't need to have very specifics. In fact, at least with my car, the PDR data actually has ambient temp in it, so I can get stuff like that out of it. But, was it sunny? Was it warm? Was it cool? Was it off and on raining? That's helpful in kind of retrospective looking at your data. Number of minutes on track. I'm going to show you how I get all this stuff. Number of laps. Miles will actually get calculated by laps times length of track. And then what my best time was for the session. Over here, this is how I keep track of tire and brake wear, as well as which tires and which brakes I was running. So what I like to do is, I have Pirelli DH, which is type of tire. 18 means these are tires that I bought in 2018, and then I just increment them, A through Z as I go through the sets. So I can go back and actually just look at the Excel filtering and say, how long did Pirelli set, let's see, clear them all, Pirelli DH18A last me. And now I can look and see, I've got to scroll back up here. I got about 3.5 hours of track time out of them and about 345 miles of track out of them. So I can go back and look at each set and say, okay, how long are they lasting? And for me, it's roughly 3.5 hours, which was really hard to equate to days, given that my days varied quite a bit. From some events, I'll get 2 hours or more of track time a day, whereas some events I might only get an hour and 20 minutes. So again, that allows me to keep much more accurate records. Oops, let me clear my filter. I do the exact same thing with brakes. So here I have the brake compound, Frodo DS111s. As you can see, I was trying 2500s in the rear for a while. I was actually doing that because I was out of 111s. And again, which set? So 18C, 18B. And then this over here, this is the PDR file name. So my basic workflow, ideally, I don't always do this. I sometimes get busy, but I try to, as soon as I come off track, grab the SD card out of the car, bring it in, stick it in my laptop, copy it over to my computer, and then what you can do is, if you go into Explorer, all you got to do is just click on the file here, and then you can just Control-C, and it will copy it, and then you can go over to your spreadsheet, Control-V, and it'll paste it in for you. I'll go ahead and delete that because I already have this in here. But again, really easy, and now if I ever want to go back and look at, say, what was happening in that session, which PDR file was it, I now have the file name. I can go back and easily find it. To actually look at or get number of laps, get best time, I use Cosworth's Pi Toolbox for that. So this is the other piece. I come off track, and assuming I have time, I want to very quickly go through my data. I also want to take notes. I'll come back to that in a second. But I want to go back and look at my data. And I always like to compare 3 laps. So in this case, you've got my best lap ever at that track in that car. I've got my best lap of the event with that car, and then I have the one I just basically ran. So I do right click, replace outing. As I come off track, I can do this every time, and then I can just pick one. Usually it's the top one, although this is one we already have loaded. And first of all, I can see right now fast lap was a 1:16.67. And in my tabular outing report, I can see I had 14 laps. So I can just go into my spreadsheet and go ahead and say number of laps was 14. You'll see miles gets populated, and it was a 1:16.67, I believe. So that's how I fill it in. It's also important to take some sort of notes of, what were you doing or what was your experience. Again, sometimes there's just nothing to say, but, for instance, when I was trying out the high wing position on the ZR1, I went to make a note that this was the session when I did that. Here's a couple of sessions where I was running 100 octane versus regular 93 octane, so I can go back and look at that data and see if there's anything different with the car. Here I had Mike Levitas driving my car. So keep track of those things so you know where to go pull that data from. And that's really the workflow. So I hope you all find this useful. Again, you can get the actual template on hypodriver.com. And everybody have fun at the track.